Since our last conversation, a lot has happened. You must have heard of the Supreme Court judgment that affirmed the presidency of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. How did that come to you?
Did you call it a judgment? I don't know. I don't call it a judgment, because there was no rationale behind anything they said in their citation. It was just confirmation of what we expected. After the first hearing, which confirmed the election of Bola Tinubu, a lot of us sang non dimittis for the judiciary, and it was confirmed on Thursday, I think it's the 26th of October, and it's good night, Nigeria. Yes, it's good night, Nigeria.
A lot of push went into this 2023 presidency by the Labour Party, the obedience, especially the diaspora obedience, in their push to make Mr. P to be the president of Nigeria. How do you think they will feel considering this process and this judgment?
They will be very disappointed. I spoke to quite a number of them in Europe and America recently, and they held hopes that the judiciary will rescue the country. I tried to convince them that nothing would happen, that it will be business as usual. Everything in Nigeria is cash and carry. My position now is that, being an Igbo man, I think every Igbo leader in this country, politically or otherwise, owes Nnamdi Kanu a sincere apology. Everything he said has come to pass. He told us that participating in the election is a futile exercise, and it's been confirmed. We did not have an election. If what happened on the 25th of February, and then subsequently in March, I think it was on the 8th of March, is what we call election, then we are doomed to failure in this country. Nigeria is a doomed country. We are the laughingstock of the world. To crown it all, recently there was an election in United Nations. I think it was Human Rights Council of the United Nations, where countries like Ghana, Zambia, and the rest of them were scoring 168 votes, 138 votes, 150 votes. Nigeria garnered 3 votes. Nigeria garnered 3 votes. Where is our pride? Giant of Africa? Of course we are not giant of Africa. We're the ant of Africa, the laughingstock of Africa. And we know why this is so. We should bury our heads in the sands. But like I said, Nnamdi Kanu should be a hero to every Igbo man. And until we begin to realize that, we'll continue to be the laughingstock of this nation. We should stand tall and admit that Nnamdi warned us and we did not listen. I stand by him.
Well, 2023 is not the end of politics or politicking in Nigeria. But let's talk about the younger generation. Let's talk about the younger obedience who must have been feeling some level of disappointment in their expectation in this 2023. What would be your advice to them, and how should they look at politics going forward?
Well, you see, I don't know. The hopes are dashed. Well, I mean, what would they be looking forward to? They held high hopes in the judiciary. We tried to douse their expectations, because we know the country very well. If you recall, when Awo was tried, I think it was in 1960, 61, with sedition and treason, Justice Shuamimo said his hands were tied. People misconstrued that statement to say his hands were tied constitutionally or legally. No. There are latent influences in judicial decisions. So it didn't start today. But we thought that growing up, seeing the rest of the world progress, the event in Kenya where the Supreme Court annulled the election of a president, we thought that Nigeria would take a cue from that. Unfortunately, we learned nothing. We have learned nothing, we will learn nothing. And until we change our ways, we're going to suffer for it. I believe that the time is right for a revolution that will bring about change in the Constitution. No, not a violent revolution, but we can do it. Unfortunately, the people you have in the National Assembly, I call them wimps. I call them wimps. They have no balls. 99.9% of them in the National Assembly are there for money. They don't care about the country. They don't even see anything beyond the confines of the National Assembly. The nation is burning, and they're talking about giving themselves 150 million naira worth of cars. Shame on them. They should bury their heads in shame. There's nothing to learn. The youths, I'm sorry for them. My age, we bought our ticket for the world beyond. Hopefully, a few more, God will give us some more years, and then we'll board the plane. So I'm sad for the young ones. Jagba will become the norm because there's no future for them here. You can't survive in this environment. Between the ascension of Bola Tinubu as the president, in quotes, and today, the cost of living has gone up by about 300–400%. Never mind what the Bureau of Statistics says. Naira was about 400. Today is 1,220. Petrol was 145. Today is 600. Where do I start? Where do I stop? How do people cope? Go to the streets. There are no cars. The rich also cry. I don't know how long we can sustain this, but the government better be careful. You may surround yourselves with the best soldiers. When the time is ripe, when there's revolution, the masses will chase you away. I believe it could happen in this country. May it not happen violently. May we have a peaceful revolution that will bring about a change. There's a desire for a change. I can only start if we change the Constitution. We are slaves to a Constitution which we did not provide for ourselves. And that's the lie of this country. The Constitution is a lie. It begins, the first paragraph is, we the people. We had no hand in that Constitution. We were given it by Abdul Salam Abubakar. You were not consulted. I was not. There was no National Assembly. So who are the people? Who are we the people? Affirming the Constitution. That's the lie. So we're living a lie in this country, and the lie continues to guide us and lead us to perdition. We are doomed.
Beyond Nigeria, we're beginning to see some kind of renaissance in some African countries. Some African countries are beginning to kind of redefine their relationship with the West. Some African leaders are beginning to question the world political economy. We see some presidents rising up to challenge the establishments. We see presidents like Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, William Ruto of Kenya, the president of Ghana, among others, beginning to question the economic establishments in the world. Do you see these as steps in the right direction? And how much of effect would that have in Nigeria and other African countries generally?
If we had a good leader in Nigeria, yes, it might. I support what they're doing. Ruto, Ramaphosa, and the Ghanaian president. It's an assertion of your authority. Look at what happened in Niger. The Nigerian experience is something that should guide Africans. They've succeeded in cutting the wings of France in Niger today. You were buying uranium for $8 per kilo of uranium, and you were selling same as at $80 or $8,000 or whatever it is, and you want to hold them hostage. The guys got wise and said no more. So they tried to use Nigeria as a buffer to remove the new president of Niger. When that failed, America backed out and said, listen, we're going to look at economic survival. They went and negotiated with the man in Niger. France, in their usual arrogant way of not recognizing the existence of Africans as human beings, could not take it, could not take dictation from an African country. But they were booted out in shame. And it should go through all African countries. We must assert our authority. Let us manage our resources. Let us produce our raw materials and sell finished goods. The idea of Africa being the provider of raw materials. Take petrol, for instance, in Nigeria. We produce crude oil, we export to foreign countries, they refine and import to us, and we expected to pay more for it. It's unacceptable. We should not accept it. We should produce and refine our crude oil here. We should produce our chocolates here. We should utilize our raw materials and produce finished goods.